What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome to your top 5 moments from the 2018 Chinese Grand Prix, the third round of the Formula 1 2018 season, and what a race that was. I said it last time when we did this video for the Bahrain Grand Prix, great race that was, great tension. Hopefully we could have an even better one at China, and oh boy, it delivered. I mean, it started off slow, but after that safety car we had, it absolutely blew up, and what a third round we had to see Daniel Ricciardo take the checkered flag. So, as we have done for the first two races so far at Australia and Bahrain, I tweeted out just after the race ended on Twitter about what your top moments were, guys, and we're going to collate that into a top 5 moments along with my kind of personal opinion there. Let me know in the comments below though what your top 5 moments are, but let's get into it. So starting off at number 5 in the Chinese Grand Prix was Ferrari's bottle / Mercedes good strategy work there to swap Bottas and Vettel. Very, very weird situation. Ferrari pretty much throwing away their race early on. Obviously, at this point, we didn't know the safety car was going to come out and change the entire dynamic of the race. So at that point, it pretty much looked like Vettel and Ferrari had thrown away their race lead. Bottas coming out ahead of Vettel. Vettel opting to not pit straight away after Bottas came in and going for a one-stop. It looked like maybe it was going to be a two-stop before the race, but pretty much everyone converted to a one-stop. Pretty easy one-stop from the soft tyres or the ultras, as it looked like to be from the Red Bull perspective as well at that point in the race. And Bottas got ahead of Vettel, and Ferrari then tried this very odd strategy of keeping Kimi out the entire time for a lot longer to about halfway through the race, trying to back him up into Bottas, and eventually obviously backing Bottas into Vettel. Didn't quite work. Kimi didn't put up much of a defensive fight, and there was a lot of debate from myself and a lot of others in terms of, Ferrari, do they need to stop doing this? They seem to always just screw over Kimi when it suits them best, when they haven't, done the strategy to play. In the case and point of the Chinese Grand Prix, when they saw that they were going to throw away the Vettel win, they tried to, use Kimi as a buffer, and even that didn't work in itself. But that was a big moment, because if we had not had that safety car and everything that happened later on that race, that would have been probably one of the biggest moments in the race of Ferrari just throwing away that race. And after Kimi's half-hearted kind of defense, he pitted and he was in P6 behind both Red Bulls, behind Hamilton, so pretty much chucked away his entire race at the time. So, if the race had panned out kind of normally as it looked to maybe go before all the kind of chaos ensued, that would have been the biggest moment of Ferrari just bottling it again and kind of trying to bodge job a strategy on the fly to help Vettel get that win, and it didn't look like it was going to work out anyway. But then of course, what happened after later on in the race. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Toro Rosso's collision / the safety car coming out. Obviously Gasly sending it down the inside of Hartley very late on the brakes. Very, very silly mistake for Gasly to make. There wasn't the move on there. He went down the inside. I don't think that was quite what we were all thinking when he said we can fight at the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Not literal fighting between the two Toro Rosso cars. Debris coming off that collision there, and that debris ultimately brought out the safety car, and that ultimately was the one of the biggest points actually. I mean, obviously it kind of had a domino effect on a lot of other top moments in this Grand Prix, so that's why it's not on number 1. But really, if you think about it, the safety car and that collision was what literally inspired every other top moment to happen afterwards. Obviously the two Red Bulls then double stacked, which was an inspired decision by the Red Bull team to pit on the same lap for both Verstappen and Ricciardo, both get them on the soft tyres, and obviously they had fresh soft tyres compared to the Mercedes and the Ferrari, all on medium tyres. So you had the pace advantage, tyre advantage, and then obviously you had the safety car restart, which you would inevitably always think Ricciardo and Verstappen are going to be good at. When push comes to shove, when it goes green, they're both going to push very, very hard. But that was a big moment in terms of flipping the entire race on its head, because all of us were licking our lips about what Red Bull could do. There was also the kind of just odd question mark of what Vettel could do. Maybe on the restart, could he jump Bottas? But in the end, Bottas actually got a very, very good jump on Vettel. We kind of slowed down quite just enough to let the safety car go, and then sped up enough that he didn't catch the safety car when he got to the last corner. And it was actually a very good start for Bottas. But in the end, obviously, the Red Bulls came through. But that was kind of the big moment to kind of let everything else happen in the Grand Prix. Number 3 is going to be the late move Fernando Alonso made on Sebastian Vettel. Obviously, this was after Vettel had his little spin with Verstappen, and Alonso going down the inside of turn 1. Initially tried to maybe look on the outside, then kind of did the switch back to cut to the inside there. Then, very, very kind of iffy on the exit of the corner of turn 1. I'm not going to lie, Alonso did leave it very, very aggressive. Vettel kind of saying, well, he's just running me out of track. Do let me know in the comments below what you guys think of that incident, or quote-unquote incident, because I don't think the FIA have said anything to do. I don't think the FIA have actually said anything that there's going to be any kind of penalty on that, at least when I'm recording this straight after the race. The FIA have not done it. Obviously, we know the FIA can sometimes take their sweet time about doing penalties, so I'm not sure at this point of recording if Alonso has a penalty for that. I don't think he would do. It was very, very close, but yeah, I mean, Vettel did clearly have some sort of damage or was very, very slow. His tyres obviously heated up quite a bit after the spin, so it wasn't exactly like he probably would have had the pace to ultimately fight Alonso back that entire lap. I think eventually, even if Alonso didn't squeeze him out, Alonso would have got him at the end of the lap there, but that was kind of nice in terms of just that kind of whole McLaren on Ferrari, Alonso on Vettel, the man who took his slot at Ferrari, just that kind of whole dynamic there, and Alonso obviously taking one more place. You know, he was P8, goes up to P7 at the end of this race. It was a difficult one for McLaren, for a lot of the midfield runners, because obviously the entire top six, both Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull were going well. So pretty much it was best of the rest in terms of up to P7. So Alonso getting that move done on towards the last lap of the Grand Prix. And so early on, actually, because Brundle in the Sky commentary was thinking, will Alonso actually have the pace? Will he send it down the inside? Will he be able to do it? And then we kind of cut straight to mid-overtake where Alonso made that happen. So kind of nice and punchy from Alonso. And that's going to be my personal third top three moment. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Max Verstappen hitting Sebastian Vettel. Yeah, just not great from Max Verstappen. I don't think there's anything you can do to defend Max Verstappen in that situation. Dives down the inside, pretty much a copycat move of Gasly, actually. So that's why I kind of tweeted out jokingly, kind of saying, demote Verstappen, oh wait, Gasly auto crash. So you can't really make that joke of demoting Verstappen, promoting Gasly, because they did the exact same thing. It was kind of odd to see a copycat move of that, but even more so compared to the Toro Rosso crash, even more spectacular, because Verstappen and Vettel both went for a spin, and that's obviously, as I said, for the top 3 moment. That's why Vettel seems so slow, because he heated up his rear tyres so much trying to spin the car around, and ultimately I think that's why he just didn't have the pace to keep up with Nico Hülkenberg at the end, who got up into P6. But Verstappen, that was a big blunder for him, and he's had 3 different mistakes now in the 3 races. Obviously the spin at Australia, which was, I don't know, debatable. We might have had damage, but he spun nonetheless. Then race number 2, squeezed out Hamilton unnecessarily, and then race number 3, down the inside of Vettel. I mean, there's no denying Verstappen is a fast driver, and he's got the pace to go out and, you know, attack these great drivers, but sometimes attacking doesn't exactly mean attacking, and sometimes you need a bit of patience to be a real great driver. You need to know when to fight your battles, and yeah, that was a really bad one from Verstappen. He could have easily have won this race, because remember, at this point, although yes, Verstappen had already made that one mistake with Hamilton, and that could have easily been another moment actually in this top 5, but I don't think it was a huge moment to make it into the top 5 there. But remember, Verstappen tried to overtake Hamilton round the outside, got pushed out there. Ricciardo then overtook him there. So Verstappen was still in this race, though. You know, he did, he was behind Ricciardo at that point, but he could still have won that race, because he could have gone wheel to wheel with Ricciardo eventually at the end of this race, because both Red Bull cars seem to have the overall pace, obviously having the tyre advantage, and then he just goes and throws away that race like that. And ultimately, actually, the irony is, which is another thing to let me know in the comments below, guys, do you think it was right? Maybe do the FI need to maybe apply a harsher penalty? Because Verstappen got a 10-second penalty. He still ended up ahead of Vettel, which is, you know, not a great thing, but they were consistent. They applied the same penalty to Pierre Gasly. So that's the thing there. The FI were consistent with Verstappen and Gasly's penalty. Is it right or wrong? It's debatable, but you can't kind of go and debate if Verstappen should have got more, because that kind of then throws, Gasly got more. They need to be consistent. They were. It's unfortunate, and Verstappen did have the overall pace then and get back into that race, overtake Hamilton, and then go on to try and pressurize Kimi Räikkönen and Bottas for 3rd and 2nd place in that Grand Prix. But that was a big thing. Obviously, that means now Vettel loses some ground in the championship. He doesn't lose massively, though, because he still finished up in P8, I think that was, and Hamilton obviously didn't have a great race. Hamilton had an entire off weekend, really, beaten by his teammate in qualifying. Then the entire race long just didn't look like he had the pace, overtaken by Ricciardo quite spectacularly, which we'll get to in a minute. But, you know, overall in the championship, not a disaster for Vettel, but still not ideal. We could have come away looking even better and happier that Chinese Grand Prix. So, yeah, big moment for Verstappen, and he's gonna, from the next race, he pretty much does it. He can't put a foot wrong now for the rest of the season, I think. Otherwise, you really start to put into question, you know, does someone need to talk to him? Does someone need to, like, you know, really slap him around the head and say, you need to, you know, really calm it down. You've got the pace, but you're not going to be a world champion anytime soon in a 21 race season if you're doing stuff like that. You know, to be a world champion, you can't be pulling races like that. 3 races in a row now. And coming in at number 1 at the Chinese Grand Prix, Daniel Ricciardo's win and overall, just his entire performance. I know a bit of a cheat because there's not one moment, but Ricciardo and that Red Bull car was hooked up so well that I just have to do it. It is a bit of cheating. There's a lot of moments here, but I can't pick one because all his overtakes, spectacular. Obviously, Ricciardo on the soft tire, that was obviously done from the earlier moments where Red Bull double stacked Red Bull, but then Ricciardo's moves on Hamilton, big dive bomb. I mean, the commentary, at least for Sky, didn't think it was possible. Ricciardo, like we've seen before, Brundle say, he kind of just counts, brake zone, okay, 1, 2, 3, now I'll brake, and he brakes 3 seconds later than any other driver. Down the inside, Hamilton was kind of caught unaware. I don't think Hamilton really thought Ricciardo was going to go down the inside, and then even more so was the move on Valtteri Bottas for the actual lead this Grand Prix. Bottas with about a bit of a half-assed attempt to go down the inside and defend to the inside, and then Ricciardo with literally an inch of space. It's like bonkers to think the amount of space. Like, that's a kind of move you see on the F1 game, not the real life scenarios. Ricciardo down the inside with inches of space left, making a move for the lead of the Grand Prix. Absolutely awesome. And then he controls that race fast after the Grand Prix and wins it. And remember, it's even better to think that Ricciardo, remember, he was out of qualifying almost. He just got back in. The team scrounged from FP3 to Q1 to get his car, rebuilt, the engine rebuilt. He puts in one lap to get through to Q2 and then just has to kind of limp home to Q3 in P6, what it was. Obviously, it kind of unsettled after not having the exact kind of pace running on Saturday. And then after all of that, to come through to win the Grand Prix, crazy. And Ricciardo said it himself on the podium, he doesn't win boring races. And that certainly, went from pretty much 0 to 100 real quick with that safety car in that entire race. So again, really, it was the number 4 moment in this kind of top 5. But really, if you think about it, it was probably the biggest moment was the safety car that allowed all these things to happen. But yeah, Ricciardo absolutely on it like a car bonnet. The move on Hamilton, spectacular, and with Bottas as well. Just great showing there for Daniel Ricciardo, and a great win for the Australian in a place where pretty crucial, because you would think actually after the Bahrain Grand Prix, that retirement early on within the first 5 laps, there was a lot of, thinkings about, is Ricciardo now thinking about jumping ship from Red Bull? Is this Red Bull's final nail in the coffin for Renault? For, maybe going to Honda or something like that? Or, is this just the good time for Ricciardo to walk out with all these kind of things happening for Red Bull? And then he goes and wins the race. So, I guess also a good day for Red Bull in terms of kind of takes pressure off that entire situation, really. Not only with Ricciardo, but also with Renault, I guess, as well. And so that's got to be the top moment in the Chinese Grand Prix. But some honourable mentions as well. We do this every single time. We've done it so far, the Australian Grand Prix and the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's difficult when you have a good race like this to have a complete top 5 concrete moment. So honourable mentions, Nico Hülkenberg, P6. Good job for him today. Just did his job. Obviously, it wasn't really, he kind of lucked into it with Vettel and Verstappen spinning, but he still had to be there to take the opportunity. And P6 for him today is a great job for Renault. Obviously, Renault a little bit on the back foot after the Bahrain Grand Prix. McLaren scored well, double points consistent in Australia and Bahrain. So Renault kind of needed this to fight back as before McLaren were the top Renault scoring team. So Hülkenberg to get P6 was a good job for him today. Verstappen, to be fair, he had a great start to the Grand Prix. So I've got to give it to him there. If we move away from the end of that Grand Prix for him, at the start, he had a great start. Around the outside and up into P3, it was a fantastic start for the Dutchman. Unfortunate that towards the end of the race then, he just had to kind of throw it away, which is a bit too eager, really. I think he just kind of got a bit too impatient, and that's kind of thing, in that situation, if you were Verstappen, you have the tyres, you have the car, you could just afford to be patient and the moves will come to you, just like we saw with Daniel Ricciardo. So that was unfortunate because he had a great start there for him. And then a kind of honourable moment, again, lastly, to finish off, and this is kind of tying in with the safety car, I kind of mentioned it already, but that double stack from Red Bull was inspired. That was a great strategy call from Red Bull, and that kind of goes into also, not an honourable mention, but kind of a blunder in this race, really, was Mercedes. Why didn't they double stack, or why didn't they just bring in at least Hamilton for a fresh set of tyres? Because at the restart of the safety car, Hamilton literally said on the radio, why have I got all these guys on fresh tyres behind me? It's because they pit Lewis, and it's because your team didn't bother to bring you in. And Mercedes, although they had an inspired strategy to get Bottas ahead of Vettel early on, Mercedes really was slow on the gun on that safety car restart, on that safety car pit stop, and almost kind of shows that maybe, I don't know, are Mercedes, maybe that's a question to throw to you guys, do you think Mercedes Mercedes maybe are resting on their laurels a bit too much from the previous years. They're just not on it. Like, they're just not on the ball on race strategy so far in 2018. Obviously, you can't take Australia into account because that was unfortunate with the virtual safety car, but Bahrain and now China. Obviously, Bahrain was a little bit lucky with Vettel going to the end, but still, that's a strategy blunder nonetheless. And then the Chinese Grand Prix not pitting Hamilton, at least, under the safety car to give him fresh tyres at the end. Do Mercedes need to kind of, wake themselves up again and try and, you see, okay, we don't have the fastest car, clearly, when we have soft compound tyres. The Mercedes car isn't the fastest, so do they need to wake up a little bit more? So, yeah, that's going to be the honourable mentions done, and then the top 5 of the Chinese Grand Prix done. So, guys, if you did enjoy this video, hit that like button. You guys seem to enjoy this in the first 2 races, and that's good to see. So, be sure to hit that like button again. Let me know, as I said, your top 5 moments in the Grand Prix. Is there something you disagree with me in terms of the reshuffling of the top 5 moments, or something I completely missed out that you think needs to be in the top 5? Let me know in the comments below. And do you think there need to be any more honourable mentions? If you aren't around here, do subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. We do a podcast here on this channel weekly. There will be a podcast tomorrow to review the entire Chinese Grand Prix in depth, so get subscribed for that, and also weekly Formula 1 game content if you look around on the channel, so that may tickle your fancy. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that Chinese Grand Prix. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.